Robert, 21 feet. That is major flood. So we are going to see these rises for those North Shore rivers. Had someone call and ask about the Bogachidet Bush, 16.5 feet. That is moderate flood. And then for the Mississippi River, we've had 151 days with it being 15 feet or over. Here is a look at that forecast and its heading. Now, you know, Daniel Graves was pointing this out. Gee, if it moves over lower Terrebonne Parish, there's the potential that it could actually make landfall early in the morning hours and then a little bit later as it heads just to the east of Marsh Island. Here is a look at what's happening, and there's some areas where you really hardly have any clouds. But look, you do have an area of heavier rain that's now developing, that's pushing into Grand Isle, Southwest Pass. That's going to be moving on shore into Lafourche Parish, eventually into Terrebonne, up towards the metro. So we've got that potential. Still dry air, but look at how that rain shield is beginning to move northward and the air is getting moistened up. Did have a wind gust at 58 miles per hour over at Port Fourchon. It was because of that little disturbance that moved through. 87 miles per hour just offshore from Grand Isle. And here is a look at that heavier rain band that looks like it's holding together, like that dry air isn't impacting it. So we can look at what's happening now. North Shore, you've got a rain band moving in right by Bogalusa, so your wind is starting to blow. Same thing for Amite. Here along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Biloxi, you've got that rain. Bay St. Louis, gusty winds with these rain bands. South of the city, some heavier rain. And that's eventually going to be moving into the metro, so we're going to be watching that. And then along the coast right there at Grand Isle, that's some heavier rain. And with this rain band moving northwest, you've got water that's moving on shore too. Here we are looking to the south with the burst of heavier rain now beginning to develop. And as the low, which is Barry, moves west-northwest, this heavier rain is going to be moving with it. So that's what we're watching. Where these rain bands set up will determine who gets that 10 to 20 inches plus of rain.
Margaret, thank you so much for that. Let's go live now to St. John. Michael Vincino has been keeping track of situations out there. Michael, what's the latest now?
And guys, right now, this is La Place that you're looking at. Just look at how much water out there. That is Lake Pontchartrain. Straight back that way, the water is pushing into this subdivision here off of Peavine Road that ends right there at the Fernier Landing. But there is a lot of water in this community, and neighbors have told me that they are used to flooding in this area, but not necessarily this much. They said that this is the most water they have ever seen from a storm this early in the storm. So a lot of the folks here said that they're not taking that. They're not going to stay. A lot of them said that they have evacuated, while a few said they will stay here. And we've seen a lot of people come in today, and they said they're coming back out here to grab their animals, to grab whatever they need to, and they're getting out for a few days because the neighbors told me this situation could get a few feet more higher. So they said that they won't be able to get in or out for a few days. So again, folks are not taking chances with this. Now, here in St. John Parish, here specifically in La Place, the officials said that they are expecting around 15 to 20 inches of rain, and they're also expecting a 1 to 3 foot storm surge in addition to what you're already seeing here. Now, for a bit of reference, I was told today that back during Hurricane Isaac, the water was an 8-foot storm surge, and again, this around here, by the end of it, they said should be a 6-foot storm surge. So the folks here are appreciative of that. But here we are, still several hours before Barry makes landfall, and these folks are already feeling this. The wind has been whipping all day long. They said these roads were drivable yesterday. Today, not so much as you're looking on here. But the good news is a lot of these homes around here are raised. So again, a lot of folks coming out here, grabbing their last few belongings, and they're getting out of this community because they said they do not want to take any chances with Barry here in this waterfront community right next to Lake Pontchartrain in La Place.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for that. But wow, we were surprised by the level of water that has slowly, steadily started to increase. Every time we go back out to our live shot with Michael Vinceno, we're seeing more water, and you can see the buildings and homes and businesses there elevated, but still, I mean, it's kind of teetering on that little dangerous territory there as it creeps up slowly.
That's what I was about to say. The impacts from Barry certainly ramping up, and we can see as we visit the different live shots, we can see before Michael, we had talked to Fletcher, and that you know, the flood wall in St. Bernard Parish is closed, and he said people just pretty much decided if they were going to stay or if they were going to go. A lot of those folks are used to these conditions, and so they were able to make those determinations. On the phone now, we have New Orleans Police Superintendent Sean Ferguson. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure it's a busy day for you today, Chief Ferguson, but tell us a little bit about your manpower. We know that there is no official curfew mandated for 8 o'clock, but I'm sure you guys are spread thin and you've got crews working around the clock. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have them on standby? Did you bring in extra personnel for the weekend? What's the status now?
Absolutely. We're at full capacity. We have everyone on deck. We are split into 2 shifts. We have a day watch shift, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., as well as a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. We will be holding over our day watch into the morning or into the next day just because we are unsure as to what to expect with regards to water in the morning. I just want to make sure that we have adequate enough coverage tomorrow. Should we really have a lot of water, we have our officers on standby to be ready to really have a lot of water. We have our officers on standby to be ready to.
There have been efforts going on and preps and mobilization efforts, if you will. What have your officers been doing for the last couple of days as we anticipate Tropical Storm Barry?
The first thing that I ask that they would do is take care of their families. Make sure the only way we can get the best quality services out of our officers is if they have a peace of mind themselves. And that starts with home. They take care of their families, take care of their homes, make sure they have taken the necessary steps in the event that this could be a wind or water storm, that they are prepared for it. Next, they are equipping themselves with the food, water, and medicine so that they can stay at least 72 hours. They are prepared to stay the entire weekend if necessary to do their duties. Beyond that, they're getting various messages and missions. Some are static points, some are field assignments in which you are actually actively engaging our community, asking them to hunker down, make sure they do not drive in standing water, make sure they are not driving on our levees. So we have various assignments, but we have all hands on deck and everyone is ready. We're equipped with boats, generators, as well as other devices to make sure that we are prepared through water or wind events.
I know that it is not illegal per se for people to be on the streets. We talked to Martha Kegel with Unity of Greater New Orleans just not too long ago. She says, they did their best they could to round up the homeless population and get them into shelter. What happens for folks who are left on the streets as we go through this weather event?
So we are working with other city departments to identify locations in which we can help facilitate these individuals to be into a safe place. It's very difficult when you're homeless, but we're encouraging as many as possible to get out of these elements, because as they're stacking into these elements, we also put our officers in a bad position with regards to trying to rescue them should we have a serious water event.
Chief Ferguson, what is the primary, duty of your officers? I know that the National Guard is ready to be deployed, mobilized. So if there is a need for rescue and search missions or, anything of that magnitude, do your officers go out and help in that nature too, or what do the officers do?
Absolutely. Well, it starts with the deployment of just being visible. You will see blue lights out tonight, letting everyone know that we are out there. We are actually making sure that everyone is safe and sound. As these water elements or events escalate, then we will hunker down ourselves. Anything beyond 35, 40 miles per hour wind, we want to hunker down ourselves and make sure that we are secure in a position where we can provide our services after this storm has passed. At that time, if we have enough water that requires a search and rescue mission, we do have our boats and high water vehicles to actually go out and help our citizens to get to a safe haven.
So what are they doing now? Right now, what is the priority at this hour? We don't see a lot of flooding in the, in the main streets of New Orleans. So right now, what are they doing? What's the priority now?
Right now, regular patrol, responding to calls for services. We're still receiving numerous calls on various incidents, be it domestic, various disturbances or whatever. Our regular routine calls, and I hate to use that word routine call because there's never a routine call, but they're out there responding to various calls for services until further notice.
And then the typical roads that usually flood, are you there in anticipation, getting ready to set barricades at those locations?
We have placed barricades at all the locations that we've identified thus far that we know traditionally would flood in a hard rain. And at that time, our officers were mobilized. And that is when we moved from a regular patrol assignment to those static point positions to make sure that we're manning those barricades or at least erecting them in a position to hopefully deter anyone from driving into any high water and putting themselves in danger.
Right, and always common sense. I mean, that has been the recurring theme and advice from officials today. Please use common sense. Do not drive through flooded roadways. Any key areas or roads that we should be mindful of in terms of closures or, places that are vulnerable to flooding?
So what we did learn on this past Wednesday, we had a few exits from the expressway that collected a lot of water, like the O'Keefe exit, the Camp Street exit, as well as Franklin Avenue off of 610. So we do have barricades nearby to erect if the water events pick up rapidly on us. So we are encouraging everyone, please stay off of the streets. We do not have a curfew, and I thank you for acknowledging that this is not a curfew, but we're strongly encouraging everyone to stay off the streets during these water events. I'm sorry.
Superintendent Sean Ferguson, we certainly thank you for your time this evening. We know you are pretty busy and lots of things going on. We appreciate you being with us.
No, I thank you. I just ask the community as well as you, help us to help you. Help us to help you by staying safe and staying indoors through this entire event. And we can all get through this together. Thank you all.
All right, you heard it there directly from the chief. Help them, help us, or help us, help you. You heard what he said.
We're all in this together. We're trying to give you viewers at home as much information as we can for the purpose of safety and keeping everybody, your loved ones and family and friends safe during this storm event.
Of course, we are here on air. You can also get the very latest information of everything that's going on, updates on Barry. You can find that information on our mobile app as well. Right now, we want to check in with reporter Matt Lipoli, who has been at the lakefront monitoring conditions there in the West End area. Matt, what's the latest?
Right, we just saw several crews from the Flood Protection Authority wrap up an operation here on Lake Marina Boulevard where we are now. Of course, the marina is on the other side of this wall. We were driving in this area just earlier today, probably just about 3 hours ago. And as you go, we went towards the lakefront, of course, towards West End Park and Breakwater Park. The road was underwater, but still passable. It was closed to through traffic, but locals could get through. As you can see now, much different. The floodgate has been closed. The road here, Lake Marina Boulevard, is closed, and that's closing off a large portion now of the West End, obviously, in both directions here. So that goes to show, as we were talking to the Flood Protection Authority, this obviously forced by water that was impassable and dangerous, and now they're on to going to other parts of New Orleans to make sure that everything will be okay. Reporting live in New Orleans, Matt Lipoli, WDSU News.
So Matt, this is Stella. If you can hear me, have you seen people out there on the roadways there in West End?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
Well, if you can hear me, just had a quick question, wondering how busy the roadways are and if there are a lot of people out there, drivers out there on West End.
When we were here earlier, there were certainly several people who were headed in the other direction, thankfully. Hopefully they were evacuating. As we know, there are homes on the other side here. Right now, there are some people who seem surprised by the barricade. Some people are driving here and then they kind of turn around. But right now, not very many people on the road. So that's a good sign. Hopefully that means that people here are heeding the warnings that have been reported all day long.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Live there on the West End for us, monitoring the gates there. Fortunately, not a lot of people, which is good. And we just spoke with Sean Ferguson, superintendent of NOPD, who advised everyone to stay indoors and hunker down. And that is the key message, all for safety reasons.
All the city agencies working in concert to keep us safe, even Parks and Parkways doing their part to keep us safe. This is a tweet here. It says Parks and Parkways crews have been clearing tree debris in the city. They stand ready to respond to residents' calls of downed trees and limbs when it is safe to do so. Those are critical words there. You can call 311 to report any tree debris and be very specific so they can address your concerns. Just one example of how the city stands at the ready and how all the agencies are working in concert to get through this weather event.
511.la.gov is also good information for, roadways, and if you want to stay abreast of the roadways and closures there. Last time we did a story, I remember, about all the real-time cameras in New Orleans. And so, the more we get so sophisticated in terms of getting ready for the storm and helping to identify places where there's a lot of floodwater so that they can dispatch crews right away. And they're working in conjunction, of course, with Sewerage and Water Board, NOPD, as Sean Ferguson mentioned earlier, that they have officers on patrol now, but they are also on standby, ready to put barricades up, to close roadways that are more vulnerable to flooding usually. And so they're ready to get out there. But the real-time cameras, not only does it help in Crime Watch and helping for security reasons, but also during flood events. So it's like a dual purpose. They can use that also to identify places that are flooded, and in real time they can dispatch right away.
All right, let's check in now with reporter Travers Mackel, who is standing by. Travers, what's the latest where you are?
Well, Gina, we're in Gretna here at the Jefferson Parish Emergency Operations Building. They're about to start a press briefing in about 5 minutes at about 7 o'clock. We'll get the latest update from Parish President Mike Yenny, the council, as well as a bunch of other elected officials from Harahan, West Wego, Gretna, and different police and fire departments. They're going to give us the latest on how their emergency plan will be enacted and what they plan on doing. Obviously, the biggest concern is possible storm surge from the Mississippi River, also the possibility of flash flooding if there is a lot of rain dropped on Jefferson Parish. So once again, everything should get underway here in about 5 minutes. They tell us it should start right on time. But Jefferson Parish is an area that took on at least some water. Now, it did drain very quickly 2 days ago on Wednesday when that storm lingered over the metro area. But once again, we are waiting to get the latest developments from Jefferson. We'll see if they put a curfew in place, whether that be voluntary or mandatory. And obviously, we know that Grand Isle people have been ordered to get off the island, although a lot of people are hunkering down and riding this out. Gina, Sulla.
That's right, Travis. We actually talked to the police chief earlier in Grand Isle, who had said that the island is out of power. Their main power pole is down at this hour, so certainly they will be without power for the foreseeable future. We know that you have been all around, Travis, monitoring conditions there in Jefferson Parish and parts of Lower Jefferson. Certainly people have been preparing, and we are awaiting to hear the latest from parish leaders. But do you get a sense that people are taking this really seriously?
I think they are. I think in light of recent storms and recent rain events, just the one that happened 48 hours ago, everybody has to take this very seriously. But when there's not a lot of weather happening, people want to see what's right in front of them at that time. So when it's sunshine out, when the wind isn't whipping and the rain isn't coming down, people start to get lulled into well, this must be much ado about nothing, and that's not a good spot to be in. So, yes, I do think people do take these storms seriously, but I think as it gets closer to us, as we get closer to Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon and the rain really gets here, that's when people will really start taking things serious. There are a lot of businesses open here in Gretna and in Jefferson Parish right now. So it hasn't really changed much. It's really business as usual right now. A lot of people are just watching and waiting as Barry approaches the Louisiana coast.
Yesterday, Travers, I remember Parish President Mike Genney giving a presser, among the many pressers that we've been monitoring and watching here in the last 48 hours, as you mentioned. He said he's been in contact with the governor, and the governor was able to provide pumps for the parish. So are those the kind of information that we expect to hear? I know it's too early to even ask you to assume what we're going to hear from this, but I imagine, how they're prepared, what they're doing to get ready, and of course, in collaboration with federal agencies, what they're doing to help prepare, correct?
No, great question. Absolutely. Pumps and levees are going to be the big thing that they talk about here. Obviously, the pumps in Jefferson Parish worked 2 days ago. That area took on water, dealt with no major flooding. So the pumps are going to be a big topic here, as well as the levees. Obviously, we all know the Mississippi River is high right now, so it should start momentarily. If we could just hang on probably the next couple of minutes or so. But yes, pumps and levees will be the big topics here for all of Jefferson Parish and all the cities in Jefferson Parish, from Grand Isle to Harahan to Gretna to West Wego, all of these municipalities in Jefferson Parish. And like I said, we're waiting for all of the elected officials here, the parish president, the sheriff, other council members, and other people from various cities here in Jefferson Parish. When you ride around Jefferson Parish right now, like I said, it's kind of business as usual right now. A lot of businesses are boarded up. Some have sandbags. We saw one on Clearview Parkway, a dental office that had sandbags in front, just as a precaution. I think that a lot of people have the attitude that it should be better safe than sorry, and that's a good way to go. Nobody wants to be caught not prepared for something like this. So that is what we're waiting here. This should be the big update before the storm makes landfall sometime early Saturday morning from elected leaders here in Jefferson Parish.
Travers, in Jefferson, particularly Lower Jefferson, Grand Isle, Lafitte, Crown Point.
So you have President
the press
Yanni,
conference is starting right now. Let's take a listen in.
Other elected officials and public service members addressing you about Tropical Storm Barry.
Well, good evening, and I want to thank everybody for being here today to help us get our message out. Joining me on stage, we have mayors from West Wego, Joe Peoples, Mayor Belinda Constant, from Gretna, our Public Service Commissioner, Mr. Eric Scrametta, our Sheriff, Joe Lapinto. We have Police Chiefs Dwayne Munch from West Wego and Tim Walker from Harahan, and our Councilman from District 1, Mr. Ricky Templet. Yesterday, as everyone knows, Jefferson Parish declared a state of emergency, and mandatory evacuations were placed on Grand Isle, Lower-lying Lafitte, Crown Point, Barataria, and the town of Jean Lafitte. Grand Isle has also issued a curfew effective at 10 p.m. tonight. In conjunction with the RTA, we have suspended Jefferson Transit services beginning at 8 p.m. this evening through Sunday morning. All riders who normally rely on this service are encouraged to make other transportation arrangements. We were spared from rain yesterday, which allowed pumps to keep canal levels at the lowest possible. Today, we had nearly 400 Public Works employees on hand to ensure the parish was as prepared as possible for the projected 10 to 20 inches of rain. Yesterday alone, they cleaned 3,534 catch basins. Today, they were able to clean an additional 3,100 catch basins. In total, our crews have cleaned more than 8,000 catch basins in preparation for this storm over the past 24 to 36 hours. And the total for this year, since January 1, we have cleaned 28,000 catch basins. One thing I can certainly say I've learned as president of this parish is we have some of the most dedicated, hardworking employees, and I thank them for their service, especially in events like this. We remain at 99.3% operational with all of our pump stations, with 189 of 190 pumps in service. The Elmwood pump station, which is at the end of the Elmwood Canal in Metairie, has one pump that's down with its turbine, but there are 9 other pumps at that station that are fine. When pumping capacity at our pumps can pump enough water, we can fill the Smoothie King Center in 6 minutes and the Superdome in 41 minutes. That's from Pelicans Court all the way to the roof. We expanded the capacity at our Kenner Parish Line pump station to increase the pump capacity by 25%. A new that station was expanded, and of course we were able to engage that just recently. This helps Kenner's neighborhoods of University City, Grand Lake, Seton Park, Susan Park, and the areas surrounding the airport runoff. As mentioned earlier, this parish has put 3 new pump stations online this past year. The pump to the river, the airport pump station, and the St. Peter's Ditch pump station in Clearview to help alleviate that flooding that happens on South Clearview Parkway. Just a note to update on the airport. Southwest has canceled all inbound and outbound flights. Many other airlines are canceling flights at this time. Please check your airline before going to the airport. Earlier today, the governor issued all floodgates to be closed throughout the parish. With that, I would like our levee districts to provide updates. First, Mr. Derek Bays for Southeast Levee Protection District East.
Thank you, President Yenny. As President Yenny said, we received guidance today to close every floodgate, not only in East Jefferson, but also in Orleans and St. Bernard parishes. As of 7 o'clock, actually about 6:15 tonight, we completed that operation and closed all 244 floodgates in the region and all 8 of our large sector gates. We also initiated operation of the permanent pump station along the lakefront, including the 17th Street Canal. Those gates are now closed, and we are matching the flow of Pump Station 6 of Sewage and Water Board. We're very confident in the entire system's ability to withstand what Tropical Storm Barry may bring us, whether it's on the river or on the hurricane system.
And now Mr. John Monzone from SIFLA West.
Good evening. Just like the East Authority, we received the same request to close the remaining gates. We began closing all our gates yesterday. All our land-based gates were closed yesterday by 7 p.m. As of 6 p.m. this evening, we closed all our water-based floodgates, including Bayou Signet, Harvey Sector Gate at Lapalco, and the West Closure Complex. Additionally, we closed the LA 45 gate at the levee system right there and on the perimeter. We're prepared, ready to go, and so that's it. We're all buttoned up.
I think y'all would say this is unprecedented. This is the most amount of gates that have been closed at one time.
Yeah, so not only that, this is the first time in the history of the levee district that we've had to close every single gate, including on the river, due to the river being so high.
Now I'd like Councilman Templet to give an update on where he has been in Grand Isle and Lafitte. Councilman.
Thank you, President Yenny. Just want to give a quick update on the areas outside of levee protector system. Just about 30 minutes ago, I was on the phone with Mayor Commodell in Grand Isle. Currently, the island has no power as we speak. Around 2:30, 3 o'clock today, a tidal surge inundated the island where it had a lot of major flooding. No reports of housing getting water in them, but without power, you know, the pumps don't work. And so the 15 temporary pumps that the parish and the administration, Mr. Yenny, we had sent down are all fully operable right now and pumping the island down for the future of the rest of this storm. In Lafitte, I just left Mayor Timmy Kerner. He's down there flood fighting the area in Lafitte, Crown Point, and Barataria. There's roughly about 30,000 bags that have already been deployed. There's another 8,000 on their way right now to deploy overnight. Water is rising in Lafitte, but there is no flooding currently as we speak. And thank you very much.
And now to give us an update on Entergy, as of about an hour or so ago, we had over 3,000 residents out. Probably a good portion were in Grand Isle. Is our Public Service Commissioner, Mr. Eric Skrmetta.
Thank you, Mr. President. As President Yenny just stated, there's about 3,250 outages in Jefferson Parish. 2,800 of them are in Grand Isle. The rest, the remaining 1,200 or so, are sporadically spread around the parish and are being dealt with by Entergy on regular repair schedule at this time. Right now, Entergy's manpower capacity in the area is about 2,800 personnel active. CLECO on the North Shore, because your area will reach over there, is about 1,300 personnel. Everybody's in place to deal with the storm in this area first. As the storm moves west and issues become more problematic there, they will deal with the problems here with adequate personnel, and then they will move this personnel. Since we're outside of that cone, they will station personnel and resources to move into the Lafayette, New Iberia area to help the other Louisianians in that region. I also spoke to Mayor Carmardel and Grand Isle. They are working to deal with the closure of LA1 south of Golden Meadow, which is preventing Entergy from going south to begin dealing with the infrastructure associated with the damage that's taken place in Grand Isle. Once the road is clear, I've already engaged with Entergy to prepare resources and place them to move into Grand Isle to begin the repairs to their system so they can repair the services for those 2,800 meters. Again, remembering that winds above 30 miles an hour prevent, by federal law, employees from being in the buckets and getting up in the, to work aerially, but we will have scouts crews and also vegetation crews on the ground in higher winds. But we are prepared, and we've very proud of the mayor of Grand Isle for his work. He's being out there right now doing what he can, and he's out in the storm. So that ends my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Skrmetta. And now we have Sheriff Joe Lopinto. Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the last 2 days, our citizens have heard almost every warning humanly possible. I want to thank them for heeding those warnings. Traffic is actually very light right now in Jefferson Parish. Most people are off the roadways. We want to keep it that way. We'll obviously go through a storm tonight and all day tomorrow. We ask the citizens to stay off the streets. Our first responders are here to respond to emergencies. They will be out there in the storm in order to respond to those emergencies. But we also want to give them, once the weather cedes, we want them to give the opportunity for Entergy to get out there and restore power. For Entergy to get out there and restore get the trees out of the way. Crews to be able to get the trees out of the way. We have plenty of people here that are out there to try to help us. If you can give us the time after this storm, we'll be happy to help. We hope we're going to miss a big storm here. We hope that we have a great afternoon and next week, actually. But we know that the worst is yet to come over the next 24 to 48 hours. Stay indoors. It appears that that is happening right now. Thank you for heeding those warnings, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sheriff. The bulk of the storm is looking to affect our area overnight. Residents should make sure that items outside of their homes are secured. That is something we've been trying to stress. We've had a lot of people trimming limbs and doing normal housework today, so we asked them to please make sure they secure that because of the winds that we could have. Also mentioned earlier, I had two mayors that joined us today, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to give an update on their cities. Mayor Belinda Constant with Gretna.
I just want to say thank you to Parish President and the administration, as well as the elected officials in Jefferson. We stand with them. Gretna is, we've done everything we can with the police department and all of our service departments, and thank you so much for standing with us.
Thank you, Mayor. And now Mayor Joe Peoples from Westwego.
I'd like to also thank Parish President Yenny. We're prepared, police department, fire department, all on go. We have crews for street crews to stay out all day tomorrow and keep our drains clean. And if any of our citizens need us, we're just a phone call away, but we will have crews in all parts of our city and watching the drains and keeping everything up. So thank you.
We also want to ask residents, again, to maintain that debris and make sure it's not on the curb. We sent out garbage trucks to try to get on top of that today, even though there was no garbage collection. We wanted to try to stop anything from becoming a projectile. So we did try to pick up as much as we could, but if you put your can out, please bring it back to your house, because we certainly don't want that blowing over, clogging up any drains, or doing anything like that in your neighborhoods. Grand Isle is currently experiencing, Ricky, what did you just tell me?
65 mile an hour wind.
65 mile an hour wind gusts. And other areas in the parish have beginning to experience 10 to 20 mile an hour gusts. Lastly, to clear up some confusion that's been out there, the buses that are currently at Zephyrs Field are not active for evacuation. The state is using that location as a staging site in the event that they need to use this for evacuations. Those buses were ordered by the state, and they could be mobilized at any time to help evacuate residents should they need to be evacuated. But that's a call the state would make and disperse those buses to those areas for evacuation. Thank you for helping us get the word out to our 430,000 plus residents here in Jefferson Parish, and we'll now take any questions you may have. Feynman?
Yes, Grand Isle, you guys mentioned Grand Isle and said we've been inundated. Has it sustained any other damage, or is there any other problems down there that you've seen?
Well, currently right now, I'm speaking to the mayor and to Chief Lane Landry. They have most things under control. Last time I spoke to them prior to this, they were gauging 65 mile an hour winds, which affect any area with debris or things flying around. They do have a curfew starting at 6.
10.
I mean, I'm sorry, yeah, 10. And they're monitoring things. They did have major flooding on the island, and they're trying to pump that down now as we speak because the tide did go down a little bit. So it's given them a little reprieve where they can pump out the island temporarily.
Do you have a sense for how many people are left on the island?
Talking to the mayor, there's roughly about 1,200 residents. He figures about maybe 500 stayed.
And of course, LA1 is closed between Grand Isle and Port Fourchon. Next question. Yeah, yes, I'm sorry.
Two things. With all of the post-Katrina changes, is there anything particularly that will be tested with this particular storm in light of the high river levels? And secondly, sort of picking up on what he was saying, with all of the low-lying areas where there's a mandatory evacuation, do you have any numbers on if the majority of people got out of those areas?
I know that, well, let me start with your first question, and I'll let Derek echo this one. Obviously, the new pump station at the end of the 17th Street Canal in Jefferson Parish, which drains, the 17th Street Canal drains Jefferson and Orleans, along with their London Avenue and Orleans Avenue pump stations. They're the first of the kind to be used this time to not put the stress on those flood walls like we had during Hurricane Katrina. I mean, this building is because of Hurricane Katrina, making sure we have the right assets to house our people to make sure they can respond as quickly as possible to our constituents' complaints. And of course, we're working round the clock here in this building trying to make sure we can handle those types of things. But Derek, if you want to talk about anything?
This one, because you got more.
As far as the system being tested, it somewhat has already been tested. It was tested during Hurricane Isaac. If you remember in 2012, the system was technically already in place. I don't anticipate this putting any more burden on the system than Isaac did. Isaac carried more surge. So the only thing that's different is the Mississippi River levees. Obviously, the river's high, so this is the first time that we've had a storm of this magnitude in the month of July with the river being this high. So, but the elevations, we did some search spot elevations. The elevations are there, and we don't anticipate any overtopping on the river.
Just to echo that, I mean, the system has been tested for over 8 months, if you want to look at it that way. We've been in High River now for 8 months plus. We've inspected everything daily. We're absolutely confident in that. We've been in High River for 3 or 4 years. So this is not, well, not in combination with a storm surge, but just like John said, I mean, we've gone out and taken extensive surveys in preparation for this storm. I can tell you in my sector down in St. Bernard, I've got 6 foot of freeboard before anything would overtop right now. We're looking at a surge of 3 to 4 and current projections. So we don't anticipate any overtopping. We're very confident in this.
And obviously, Jefferson Parish has put more generators in at buildings and pump stations and sewer lift stations as possible. We play the generator game, moving around portables to make sure we're keeping our major storage lift stations up and running when we have high rain events, because we know we're going to experience I&I, inflow and infiltration into the storage system. So we want to make sure that doesn't end up in people's homes and we can keep those sewer lift stations going. Yes, sir.
So given the current conditions and how this storm is developing, what are the most serious concerns for the parish?
Obviously, as we've said, lower lying areas, Lafitte, Grand Isle, Barataria, Crown Point, what the water is going to do, how it will come over, top those levees, move in behind the island of Grand Isle. That's certainly things we're concerned about. With the wind gusts, we know that we're going to lose power. And so people need to just be patient with us so that we can help Entergy restore that power. And that's why Public Service Commissioner Skrmeta is here and a lot to embed with us to make sure he's getting Entergy where they need to be to get that power restored, because we know that is burdensome. We know that we're going to experience a lot of rain, anywhere between 10 to 20 inches of rain is certainly going to be burdensome to our system. As Mayor People experienced and the people of Bridge City experienced just the other day, almost 8 inches in the Westwego Bridge City area. As I told people, another analysis, we can fill up an Olympic swimming pool in 2 seconds, or 2007 Olympic swimming pools in about an hour. So it's certainly, we have a good system, but when you get that kind of rain, that certainly causes a burden on the system, and we do everything we can. That is why we have been working to clean out as many of our 80,400 catch basins as we possibly can. Working very, very hard to do that, and that's why I commend all of our public works employees, from drainage to streets to even parkways today, and of course our line rehab division. They have been working diligently around the clock, and tomorrow, when they can get out, they'll certainly get out to handle any areas that have flooded, to try to clog those drains unclog those drains while it's raining.
You share a pump station with Orleans Parish. 2 days ago, a lot of water fell in the metro area, and the 17th Street Canal was, in some people's opinions, dangerously high. Does there come a time if we get a lot of rain like that tomorrow or even into Sunday that you call the Worlds and say, hey, can you guys get something going here? Because that's a big threat to all Metro.
Good. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, very good question. I can say this. I went to the 17th Street Canal the other day, and I haven't seen rivers in Colorado that were flowing as fast as the water moving from New Orleans and Jefferson Parish down that canal to Station 6. We have a person from our staff embedded in Station 6, and we thank Mayor Cantrell and her administration for allowing that, so we know what's going on in that station. So that makes our comfort level good to know. And she mentioned the other day that they're at 75% power capacity. That's higher than they've been in decades. So we feel very confident at this time. Derek? Yeah.
All right, so when we operate the 17th Street Canal pump station for us that mirrors Pump Station 6, when we close the gates, we pump down the canal. We've already done that. We're at negative 0.5 or so in the canal based on our actions this afternoon. Typically, we run and we match whatever Sewage and Water Board Pump Station 6 is putting out. However, their capacity is about 10,000 CFS total. Ours is over 12,000. So we can not only match them, but actually drain the canal faster, and we're prepared to do that for this event. So, the canal range in 17th is, it can't go below -1, and it can't get above +8. It will never get above +8 when we're pumping, as everything goes smoothly.
I had another question, maybe for Mr. Skrmeta. If people do deal with power issues, how quickly could you lean on power companies? Because that's the biggest inconvenience for a lot of people for storms like this. If they do lose power, if they have to sit for a day or 48 hours or 72 hours, how quickly can you lean on people to get that power back up and going?
Well, in emergency situations like this, we tend to take a standoff approach because we know that they're working as hard as they can. We have them bring in extra personnel to ensure that they're doing this. The other thing we've done is, since Katrina and since Isaac, is they used to work in teams of 3, moving their scouts, their vegetation personnel, and their bucket personnel all in teams. And we broke that apart. So where they can have the scouts and the vegetation guys go out when the winds are higher and begin working, and then get the bucket guys to go where they need to be. So we've made the system more efficient. We've also installed in our best practices docket the use of drone technology, so they can go and skim the various distribution lines and transmission lines to find out where the problems are now and shorten the man hours. But when it really comes down to it, we engage on a personal level with the utilities, whether it be Entergy or CLECO or the co-ops, and engage with them where there are critical infrastructure problems first, and then we work with them on residential after that. So we always want to make sure that hospitals and other stuff, critical infrastructure, meaning circuits that provide fuel issues for folks, and grocery stores that are served first. But we are confident that in this particular situation, that the allocation of manpower and resources are going to take care of themselves. But I think it's fair to say that all 5 commissioners lean on their utilities all the time. So that's the important thing that public can take away from this is we're focused on it, and we're going to make sure that they pay attention to it. Thank you.
In talking to Philip May, the CEO of Entergy, nobody leans on him more than Eric Skrmetta. I hear that. But also, you know, we've had somebody embedded in Station 6 since the August flood of 2017. So, you know, we've been constantly monitoring that station because of the amount of water it does drain from Jefferson Parish. Okay, well, I can certainly say Jefferson Parish is prepared. We're ready, and we'll do everything in our power to recover from this event as quickly as possible, no matter what happens. Oh, Commissioner.
I'd like to add one thing what you said about the 17th Street Canal issue. And Mr. President, I can't remember the date, but when there are issues associated with the Orleans Parish power system with its differential cycle problem of providing adequate resources, Jefferson Parish came to the Public Service Commission and said we needed to put in a redundancy line from the Jefferson Parish side, which is Entergy Louisiana. And in 2 days, we had a redundancy line to the 17th Street Canal Power as an additional power backup, which is helping to provide an additional layer of power and resource to the 17th Street Canal power station that's going to help provide more reliant power services to that to make it just that much more reliable as we go forward into this storm. Thank you.
And again, I'd like to thank Chief Steve Caraway, who is my Chief Administrative Assistant over all of these events. He's doing an outstanding job making sure our team operates the way we need to. And I want to thank all of our fire chiefs who are here with us today, all of our 13 volunteer companies throughout the parish. They are certainly boots on the ground and inform us of what they see when their teams are out in the streets, so we can have eyes on the ground everywhere throughout the West Bank of Jefferson Parish and in the 3rd District. And, of course, Chief Tibbetts and the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. That concludes our press conference for today. We don't anticipate having any other news briefings this evening. We'll monitor the weather and make a decision about additional press conferences tomorrow. If you would like any direct interviews, please let me know. We'll arrange that.
All right, so there you go. Jefferson Parish President Mike Yenny giving an update on what's going on with the parish. Obviously, their biggest concern, he said, would be the Mississippi River levee, as well as flooding concerns throughout the parish. But they say they feel like they have it under control. He feels like the pumps are all working. You heard from Eric Skrmetta. Eric Skrmetta is the Public Service Commissioner for this area. Obviously, there are only a handful in the state. In Jefferson Parish, the Public Service Commissioners, really in every parish but Orleans, the Public Service Commission regulates the power carrier. That would be Entergy here. He says that he leans on them. If people in Jefferson Parish lose power, he'll be leaning on them to get people's power up and running. That is comforting news for people watching this right now, because that's always a nuisance. That's always a big problem. After a lot of storms like this, people lose power, and they want to know how quickly it can go back on. Obviously, Entergy works as quickly as they can, but the Public Service Commissioner, Eric Skrmetta, says we'll be leaning on them to get that power up and running. The big story here is Grand Isle. A lot of people don't realize it is in Jefferson Parish, even though it's the barrier island for Louisiana, as Jefferson Parish is a very long north-south parish in this state. A lot of people without power in Grand Isle. They have extra pumps, but they can't get those pumps working because they need power to have those pumps working. So it seems like for Jefferson Parish leaders, Grand Isle is the big concern right now, and everybody else, like the rest of us, is just playing the watching and the waiting game at this time. Sulla, Gina.
Travis, thank you so much there. And then also some key takeaways there was that 10 p.m. curfew has now been implemented out there in Jefferson Parish. And in the course of the last 2 days, they were able to clean about 8,000 catch basins. And also all floodgates now close as mandated by the governor. Jefferson Parish, Orleans Parish, and St. Bernard Parish, all floodgates are now closed.
Absolutely. We want to take you now Mississippi. The governor of Mississippi actually has signed a disaster declaration there. This is just in advance, or a state of emergency declaration, rather, in Mississippi. This is just in advance of Tropical Storm Barry and its impacts, in advance of the storm making landfall. So we do know that these emergency declarations definitely free up resources, or you can pre-position resources to put in place to deal with the aftermath of what Barry may bring.
That's right. And it started yesterday, the emergency declarations. City of Biloxi started issuing them, and now the entire state of Mississippi under an emergency declaration. Coast Guard crews also headed to Covington today, and this is video or pictures here coming into our newsroom of how they're being dispatched and deployed to help out with the folks out there in Covington. But the Coast Guard also had a really busy day today in light of the fact that Mississippi just signed this emergency declaration. Coast Guard crews were able to rescue about 5 people out there about 20 miles close to Gulfport, Mississippi, where a vessel was in danger. They called for help, and Coast Guard crews with their helicopter were able to go out there in choppy waters. And we saw that video coming into our newsroom earlier today, too, where it was a dramatic video of the rescue already starting even before Tropical Storm Barry making landfall. So water is choppy and very dangerous out there, and Coast Guard out there to rescue 5 people today.
Here's a look at the power outages right now Entergy is dealing with. We knew that there were power outages in Grand Isle. We talked about that, but also St. John seeing about 700 folks without power right now. Terrebonne, 4,300 folks out of power. Jefferson Parish, an estimated 4,300 people without power. And in Lafourche, I want to say 1,800 people without power. So we are starting to see the impacts of Barry as it makes its way closer to landfall. Time now just about 7:30. We know if you're making those last-minute preparations, particularly in Orleans Parish, you have about a half hour before. Mayor LaToya Cantrell has asked everyone to go inside, about a half hour also before public transportation in Orleans Parish is suspended.
Not a mandatory curfew in Orleans Parish, but at the advisement of the mayor, she is encouraging everyone to stay indoors, pick up that debris, bring in your trash bins inside the garage. Do not leave anything loose or hanging in your patio or outside of your house. Let's go now straight to Chief Meteorologist Margaret Orr for the latest on Tropical Storm Barry. Margaret?
Well, you were talking about power outages, so I want to show you our wind gust right now. And we're seeing 37, 47 mile per hour winds. And of course, at Grand Isle, you heard about that 65 mile per hour wind gust. That's the type of wind gust that can cause power outages. Tree limbs can come down, they fall on the power lines, and then you get the power outages. Now, we've got a new update in, and the headline from the Hurricane Center is Barry expected to be a hurricane by landfall on Saturday. Now, it may or may not become a hurricane, but it's going to be close. Right now, expected to be 70, possibly 74 miles per hour. So be aware of that potential. There, we're looking at the cone. Notice the cone is very small. So that is showing that, you know what, the Hurricane Center is more convinced of the forecast track. So the cone gets smaller when they are confident in that forecast. But while we look at the cone, that's where the center is expected to go 2 out of 3 times. 1 out of 3 times it can be out of the cone. So you have to be aware of that. And the major impacts with a tropical storm or a hurricane often are well outside of that cone. So let's check out Barry. And there you can see about 85 miles southeast of Morgan City, max wind 65 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 4 miles per hour. Let's go over the warnings. These really haven't changed. So we still have the hurricane warning from Grand Isle all the way over to Intracoastal City. The tropical storm warning from the Pearl down towards Grand Isle, including us, and then generally points north, because as the system moves onshore, it then becomes a tropical storm. It's moving away from its energy source, which is the warm water. Here is a look at where we've got the storm surge warning, and that's in effect for the lake, so you have to be aware of that. In effect along the coast, this is where we've got the watch farther to the east over by Biloxi. So from Atchafalaya Bay to Shell Beach, the potential, and we always say potential to let you know what's possible, may be close to that, may be over it. So 3 to 6 feet, Shell Beach to Biloxi, 3 to 5 feet. And I've really seen that strong onshore flow pushing water onshore along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. For Lake Pontchartrain, 3 to 5 feet. So outside of the levee protection system, you're going to see a 3 to 5 foot rise in the water, and for Lake Maurepas about 1 to 3 feet. This is a look at where we've got the flash flood watch, and I've got to tell you, models are showing us different things. You know, this Barry has had real problems with dry air and with some wind shear. So we're going to have to see where those rain bands set up. And where you get the rain bands, that's where you could have that potential for 10, 20 plus inches of rain. If you don't have a rain band set up on top of you, you may get 2 to 5 inches of rain, okay? So some of us will get a lot of rain, some of us won't. But this is where we've got that high risk for excessive rainfall. And we're in that high risk. And this is from the Weather Prediction Center. And there's some smart people who are working on that. Flood warnings, of course, for the Mississippi River. But look, on the North Shore, we're seeing flood warnings being posted. The water is going to rise. So, and it's going to be a quick rise. I mean, 10, 15 feet rise. So you've got to be aware of that. Right now, we are looking at Algiers Point. Can you see it? No, you cannot see it. We've got some rain that's beginning to come down there. Also, we were looking at the Mississippi River, couldn't see it. So here is a look where we are now. 16.89 feet, dropped a little bit. That could be from a wave, you know. And then look, forecast to get up to 19 feet. We heard from the Corps of Engineers. They are confident in our levee system, so that makes me feel really good. But of course, there are going to be waves on the water. There could be some splash over, but the levees are looking strong. And this flood fight has been 151 days for it being 15 feet and above. It's really been a long time. So we're looking at the Bogochit at Franklinton. These may all go up some. Moderate flood forecast at 20 feet for the Bogochit at Bush. Had a call specifically about that, 16.5 feet. And then look at the Tchefuncte, 30.5 feet. That's major flood. And it's close to the record flood. And then Tchefuncte near Folsom, same thing, 24 feet, major flood. Tangipahoa at Robert, 21 feet. All of those major flood. They're fine now. The water is low. We barely had any rain today, but they are forecast to go up. So be aware of that. Here we are, we're looking, looks like the center, maybe, and it's kind of hard to tell. You know, we've got issues. We've got this dry air, we've got some stronger winds aloft, but we are seeing this moisture increasing and moving north. Dry air is impacting it. There is no doubt about it. So it's going to be interesting to see what really happens. Had that disturbance move through 58 miles per hour at Port Fourchon, 87, south of Grand Isle. But at Grand Isle, they saw a storm surge came in. They had the winds increase. And I'm telling you, it was right when this band moved in. Right, there it is. That's when it happened. I'd not be surprised at all. So there you can see, here's this rain band. And with this band, you're going to see an increase in the water level. You'll see an increase in the wind. That's what happens with these tropical systems. Here's another little band. This is approaching the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You're going to get a water rise with that. You'll notice an increase in the winds, too. Had that rain north of Bogalusa, a little bit over towards Slidell. It's moving towards Mandeville. Let me tell you, this rain is moving really fast. So again, with this one, you'll see a little bit of rise right there along the coast. We've got rain in the metro. That's why we couldn't look at the Mississippi River, just really socked in. Look here, this is the storm that probably, look, it came right across Grand Isle. That's when you had your big wind gusts. So Galliano, you're getting the big wind gusts now. This is going to move like so. So it's going to impact Raceland, Houma, Thibodaux. Be aware of that. And then offshore, this is where we've got some of this heavier rain, and that's just going to be swinging right on up, moving onshore. So slight risk, severe storms tonight, slight risk, severe storms tomorrow, slight risk, severe storms on Sunday. So we're talking Saturday, Sunday with this potential. Now, this is the rapid precision model. It's just a different model to show you, showing that center moving on shore near Marsh Island, a big rain band moving up towards the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Very heavy rain offshore from Marsh Island. Here we are Saturday afternoon, kind of making inroads, moving to the north. Some heavier rain at times moving across the North Shore, but it's not bullish about really giving us heavy rain in southeast Louisiana. It shows you all the different models that we work with. So here a look at the European model, and it's showing 6 o'clock in the morning we've got 55-mile-per-hour winds in the metro. 2 o'clock you got 50-mile-per-hour winds at Slidell, 37 Bogalusa, 47 over at Gulfport. But one of the most important things you need to know, look, all of the models show that strong south wind. So if you get heavy rain, it's going to have a hard time moving into the lake, especially because that lake is 2 to 5 feet higher, right? Now we're looking at Sunday afternoon. The winds still fairly strong. Hammond, Baton Rouge, 45, 43 miles per hour. This is a look at the rainfall forecast by the European model. It's not as bullish as the global forecast model, the American model. So Saturday morning, we got the rain moving in over here by Houma. Not too bad elsewhere. Now we're going into Saturday night. It's adding up at Houma, Baton Rouge. And now we're going into Sunday morning, and we're seeing 3, 4, 4.5 inches of rain. But you look over here at the lakefront, 1.5 inches. Over here at Gulfport, 1.4 inches of rain. Hammond gets it. The airport close to 3. Houma, that's a lot of rain. So that shows you the potential from one model of what could happen. Here is a look at what it looks like, just kind of showing you where the rain is. This is Saturday afternoon with the heavier rain to our west, right over south central Louisiana, moving northward, falling over the Mississippi River Basin. So that means eventually that water will be moving downriver. And then you go into Sunday and, you know, things begin to get better. This is a look at the global forecast model. Saturday morning has the center right there at Marsh Island. We've got 65-mile-per-hour winds at Galliano, 53 at Houma, 45 Gulfport, 42 Slidell, 25 at Hammond. That south wind continues, much stronger. Look, Houma, 74-mile-per-hour winds. But that strong onshore flow, that is causing the storm surge. Saturday night, that's still a strong wind, 59 at Galliano. Look, there's the center moving now a little bit more to the west-northwest. But late Saturday night, still some strong winds. So what about rainfall? The global forecast model has shifted a little bit. It does not look good for our area. 10 o'clock at night, 6.5 over towards Houma, almost 5 at the airport, 3.5 at Hammond. Let's take it through Sunday morning, 8 inches in Houma, 6 at the airport, 4.5 over at the lakefront, over 3 at Slidell. So as we end up close to 10 inches Baton Rouge, 9.5 at Houma, Mississippi Gulf Coast, not bad. You know, some of this rainfall we can handle, but it gives you what we all look at. It shows the potential. This may happen. This may shift more east, may shift more west, but it lets you know with this system you've got the potential for 3 inches to 10 or more. Okay? This is a look at the global forecast model, just kind of showing you that rain. Terrebonne, Lafourche, really just west of the metro, getting that heavier rain, then moving to the north and eventually heading up into Mississippi. So what's the takeaway? Yes, we've got the potential for locally heavy rain. Not everybody is going to get it. We've got the potential for storm surge. It's obvious with that.
Jefferson Parish officials, and he's live now with another update for us. Travers?
All right, so we have Councilman Ricky Templer. We're going to talk to him about Grand Isle and low-lying areas because that's the big concern. But let's start with Sheriff Joe Lopinto. A lot of people watch storms like this, and they want to know, will their property be safe? What about people, I guess, casing neighborhoods or looking to do something not good because, unfortunately, it's the world that we live in today?
Well, there is no mandatory evacuation. In fact, there's not a voluntary evacuation for most of Jefferson Parish. So people will be home. People will be watching their own community, and we don't expect any type of interruption of service with the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. So if anybody sees anybody suspicious out there, just call us through 911. As always, we'll be there very quickly in order to investigate who that person is out. We ask everybody to stay inside the house over tonight and tomorrow. The weather's going to be bad. If we can keep them off the street, we can make sure that we can keep Jefferson Parish safe.
Really quickly, what about people who drive down flooded streets? Is that something that your deputies can try to prevent? Because that leads to a lot of cars getting ruined and homes getting ruined if we do deal with a flooding event.
Well, we try, as soon as we have flooded streets, we notify which streets are flooded in order for the parish to come out and put barricades out. Unfortunately, we have 430,000 people that have vehicles, and they have way too many streets for 50 to 75 officers to be able to patrol all of them. I don't have the ability to be at the corner of every single street in order to write those tickets. That's an unfortunate situation. It's not something that I'm necessarily proud of, but it's just the reality. We ask people not to do it. We ask people to use common sense, not because it's against the law, but it's about being a good neighbor. We know that vehicles put water on people's properties. We hope the water stays low enough where it's not going to put water into people's properties, and that's what we hope we can continue.
All right, Sheriff Joe Lopinto. Let's go to Councilman Ricky Templet here. We just talked about Grand Isle. It seems like the most immediate threat for this parish right now is Grand Isle, Lower Lafitte, and Barataria.
Correct, in Crown Point. You know, right now, Grand Isle is without power. We said that a little earlier. It was inundated with some tidal surge earlier, around 2 or 3 o'clock today. Talking to the Mayor Commodell and Chief Lane Landry, they actually using 15 temporary pumps to pump out the water that inundated the island right now and dealing with the power outage.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of people watching this have this question. You've been a state representative, you've been a parish councilman. Why don't people leave that area? Not that you have a crystal ball, but you're asking people to leave Grand Isle and low-lying areas, and some people just say, I'm not going anywhere. Why is that? Why are people so hesitant to leave their property when they're told to do so?
Well, you know, one of the problems is, like, we haven't had a major storm since 2012, which was Isaac. Okay, so a lot of people think the light storms, they can just ride out and deal with the issues. You know, until they don't have power, until they don't have ice, until they don't have running water, they think they can handle the issues.
And they can't if those things happen. If roads get blocked and they lose power and they're stuck, they can't. This is why mandatory evacuations are issued.
And then one of those issues is absolutely right, is that all of a sudden in Grand Isle, when Highway 1 is inundated with water, you're totally cut off from escaping.
Right. One way in, one way out. Councilman Ricky Templet, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. That's the latest here from the Emergency Operations Center in Jefferson Parish. We'll bring you all the updates as Barry starts to make his way ashore sometime early Saturday morning. For now, reporting live in Gretna, I'm Travers Mackel, WDSU News.
All right, Travers, thanks. Time now is 7:45, just about 15 minutes before Mayor LaToya Cantrell is asking everyone in Orleans Parish to get inside. We do know that she's asking people to be indoors by 8 o'clock. Also, we know that, as we said, the bus service will be suspended by 8 o'clock as well. This is a critical hour, so just about 15 minutes from now, Mayor Cantrell asking everyone to go inside. We want to go to Venetian Isles, where a voluntary evacuation order is in place.
Tammy's live there with more. Tammy.
Yeah, and with that voluntary evacuation, ladies, we have seen residents at points today leaving the area. A lot of the people back here in Venetian Isles, they have RVs, so they've been hooking their cars up to them and getting out of Dodge. But there are still residents that have chosen to stay. Now, the weather, it's picked up once again out here. We've been having bouts of rain, and then it'll get quiet, and then we'll have a little bit more rain. But the wind, take a look at this American flag over here across the street at one neighbor's house. The wind has started to whip once again while we wait for this storm to get closer and closer to us. But, you know, all afternoon we've been showing you guys the water on the street, which is the major draw that brought us out here. It happens when there is a big storm in this area, and a lot of neighbors are used to it. That's why they usually move their cars to higher ground. In this case, Highway 90 or Chef Mentor Highway. You can still see some vehicles right there. but other residents, because they got word that the floodgate was going to close nearby, which is approximately a mile or so right up the street. A lot of them moved their vehicles to the other side of that gate before it closed down at 6 o'clock. Now, that also means with that floodgate being closed, that emergency services are going to be limited in this area. But meanwhile, you know, a lot of residents still out. They're still taking a look at the weather. A lot of them we talked to still unsure of whether they're going to evacuate or not. And, you know, it's times like this, I guess you can call it the calm before the storm, like some mayors have told us. A lot of residents will have a tendency to get complacent because it doesn't look like anything is going to happen until it actually does. So a voluntary evacuation still in effect in the lower lying areas like here in Venetian Isles, Lake Catherine, and Irish Bayou. Of course, we've got not a mandatory curfew, but people being asked to go inside now that it's late in the evening, and a lot of the people have heeded both of those calls. We're live in Venetian Isles. I'm Tammy Eswick for WDSU News.
All right, Tammy, thank you so much. You can breathe a little sigh of relief as you see a little bit of the water receding, but we know it may come back up again, and that is the big concern, which is why we're paying close attention there. Let's go live now to St. Bernard Parish, where Fletcher Mackel is standing by live with the latest there. Fletcher.
That's right, Solo. We've been here all afternoon, all evening. You and I have had some conversations. You've asked me how things are in the parish. We were all the way down in the Wyclosky area. We went as far south as we could go before there were some flooded roadways because of the MRGO, the Mr. Go, some of the water that was pushed over those highways. We couldn't get all the way down to Shell Beach in Wyclosky. You asked about the rest of the parish. I'm just going to step out of the way. We are in Chalmette now. We have come all the way back up to the top of the parish, if you will. Judge Perez Drive here. You asked us how people were handling getting ready for Barry. Very well here in St. Bernard Parish. Obviously, we know this is an area that has dealt with a ton of flooding and a ton of storms. Some of us will never forget the horrific sights that we saw here in this parish during Katrina back in 2005. 9, 10, 12 feet of water in certain parts. Our own Heath Allen was actually stuck here in the governmental building where the water almost got to the second floor. Not a lot of traffic on Judge Perez. About 2 hours ago, there was a lot of traffic in this area. I will say the businesses, they are still open here, but people following Parish President Guy McGuinness's advice, following law enforcement's advice, if they don't need to be out, they are not out. We have not seen a lot of rain, a few little showers and some mist here and there. It is very windy in this area, though. It was far windier in the southern part of the parish, but it is still windy here in Chalmette. And what people here want to know, especially given the water levels that we have talked about, will they be safe here? Will the levees hold? Obviously, these levees were rebuilt with federal dollars, state dollars, local dollars after Hurricane Katrina. We talked with one of the experts at a media conference several hours ago. Here's what he had to tell the people of St. Bernard about their safety during Barry.
Mississippi River levee is a big question in many people's minds. I want to tell everybody in St. Bernard Parish, as of yesterday, and we anticipate that until we start seeing the surge, there was a minimum of 6 foot of freeboard between the top of the water and the top of the levee. You're all hearing the reports about 3 to 4 feet of storm surge coming up the Mississippi River. You have 6 feet of freeboard in St. Bernard Parish. So we are absolutely confident that the system is going to perform very well, and we do not anticipate any overtopping.
So that, of course, is very, very good news for the residents here in St. Bernard Parish. I've been listening to a lot of the other media conferences in Orleans, in Jefferson. Here in St. Bernard, they don't have a curfew. They don't even have what they have in Orleans, a suggested time for people to go in. I know it's 8 o'clock in Orleans Parish. Here in St. Bernard, the sheriff is saying we just want people to use common sense. We want them to be smart. Once the rain starts moving in later tonight, there's no reason to be on the streets. The St. Bernard Parish Sheriff's Office has a heavy presence out right now. They said they were going to be on the streets patrolling the area, making sure everyone is safe and that this area is protected. They are living up to that. The flood wall all the way down about 20 minutes from here in the lower part of the parish is closed. Only emergency reasons in and out of the areas like Shell Beach and Wykloski. Here in Chalmette, though, it seems like most people got off of work, most people are home, and they are sitting it out tonight, which is exactly what leaders in this parish wanted. For now, though, live in St. Bernard Parish, I'm Fletcher Mackel, WDSU News.
All right, Fletcher, thank you so much for that update. And it is really a little bit of a relief and good to know that people are staying off the roadways, because even if you may not see flooded streets and flooded roads just yet, because of the impending storm, you don't know what's going to happen. It is always just a good idea, and then, you know, just to stay off the roadways and stay safe and stay inside.
I mean, absolutely, certainly. I mean, nowhere is out of the woods until we are past this weather event. 7:52, almost 7:53 now. We do know 8 o'clock, critical time, asking folks to get indoors. We had heard from Mayor Latoya Cantrell earlier today. You know, it's certainly a lot of moving parts when you are trying to respond to a tropical system and a tropical threat. On the best advice of the officials who she has been in contact with, on the best advice, she says that, you know, it's hard to issue a mandatory curfew because of the stress of resources that would entail, but she is asking everyone to get indoors.
Yeah, their resources are already stretched thin. We spoke with Superintendent Sean Ferguson earlier, who said he does have extra personnel and police officers out there on standby as well as ready to go. I understand the firefighters, New Orleans Fire Department, also putting their people on standby for either a 12-hour or 24-hour stretch. So all these departments working together in coordination to not only, now the NOPD patrolling right now, he said as usual, but they are also ready to do rescue missions should that be necessary once we see what Tropical Storm Barry does and the impacts of that. Now the airport also, we saw long lines there. Gina, we saw long lines all day everywhere, but the airport also, Allegiant and British Airways, Southwest also canceling all flights out there today. We saw people who were affected because of the cancellation of the convention from your sorority that was in town. So the convention center there being utilized by officials for resources and other assets, and also the food supply there that was used up from the convention center being canceled, being sent to Second Harvest Food Bank. So a lot of things being affected, and trickle-down ripple effect for not only events, but a lot of agencies and people being affected by the impending storm.
Let's check in now with WDSU reporter Travers Mackel. He is still in Jefferson Parish with the Jefferson Parish President, Mike Yenny. Travers, what's the latest?
That's right, Gina. We're in the Emergency Operations Center. We're not just in the center, we're in the brains of the operation. We're going to talk to Mike Yenny. Explain to us what we're looking at here, what viewers are looking at, because this is really, I guess, the lifeline for everybody who's dealing with emergency ops right now.
It is. Obviously, post-Katrina, we knew we needed something more advanced than an old incinerator that we used to work out of that was converted into the original EOC on Ames. I think my grandfather actually commissioned that building.
As we're doing this, let's walk through it and show us as we go.
Sure. And, of course, embedded with us is not just parish employees. We have the National Guard. We have the Coast Guard. We have members from in our departments, we have fleet management. They handle all fuel for generators and vehicles as we go forward. We have our public works crews in here, all of our drainage departments. The emergency operations staff actually runs the room, but we have incident commanders and the ops chiefs that actually oversee the operations of this room specifically. One of the most impressive things in this room is our SCADA system, which monitors all of our canal levees, our canals, and pump stations. And so that's extremely, absolutely.
And then also, if we can show this, they have placards. Is this for everybody to know? Public Works as well?
We have Atmos Energy, Cox Communications. We have Entergy Louisiana right here. We have all of our staff members. This is our B team. So this is the A team kicked off at 8 this morning and went to 7, and now the B team is going to go 7 to 7, and then the A team comes back.
Okay, you want us to show us something over here right now?
This is the SCADA system, and you can film this obviously, but this shows, this is an actual camera live time in one of our pump stations. This shows the drainage pump station overview, East Bank, West Bank, even in the Lafitte. This will show us which pumps are running, and this shows us our canal levees and pump operation. So it's a very advanced system that the parish has had for many decades that we keep upgrading through our IT department.
So this picture right here on the left right here, that shows which pumps are operational or working.
The Suburban pump station right now with all the pumps in it. Do we have a pump running right now?
Not at Suburban.
Okay, so nothing's running at Suburban, but if it was, you would see those red parts on the screen, the pumps actually, you know which one.
So the green one right there is going.
The green one is running. And a lot of times, we have electric pumps at our stations, and those stabilize the canals. So they keep it at the 8 feet. And what happens is once they hit 8 feet, that's when we'll engage either other electric or diesel pumps, and the diesel are the big pumps. Okay. And those will, obviously do the massive job of pumping the canal down. So when residents call and say the pump's on, we have to let the canals go to 8 feet, and then we engage the pumps, and that's 8 feet from the base of the canal to the top level. Then we engage the pumps, and then we pump, and we do our job to pump an inch the first hour and a half inch every hour after that. So if the system gets fully overwhelmed, obviously you will have street flooding. As I mentioned earlier, with all of our pumps working right now at the 99.3% capacity we could fill up the Superdome in 41 minutes. And that's from the turf to the ceiling,
which is crazy. It's a great analogy. It's a great comparison. So
it's because I have a great drainage director.
So let's take a live look in here before we wrap up here. You can see this is the EOC. This is the brains of the operation. They have representatives from all the municipalities as well as Cox, Entergy, and everybody else that needs to be here, all in one room here in Jefferson Parish. So we're here with Parish President Mike Yenny. That was actually something really interesting to look at. I don't think we can see enough of it because this is what people want to see. They want to see, real time with their pumps, and they're not on now because they don't need to be. But when they are on, you can see it's green means it's on, red means it's off.
If I could put this in everybody's home, I would do it. So they would know Jefferson Parish's pumps are running when we have a rain event.
Like a video game. I wish they could probably touch it, maybe turn one on.
As long as they can't turn one off.
Right, right. All right, Parish President Mike Yenny. We're here at the Jefferson Parish Emergency Operations Center. Gina Sella. This is really kind of pulling the veil back and letting people see what goes on during events like this.
So informative, Travers. We really appreciated that, and that was really enlightening to see what really does go on. We always talk about EOC, it's operating, and they're collaborating back there. We've never gotten a chance to see what goes on behind the scenes, so that was really informative, Travers, and we learned something.
Absolutely. Just a memo from AT&T. AT&T is providing relief to customers affected by Tropical Storm Barry. The AT&T has issued a release saying that they are going to keep wireless and prepaid customers in areas affected by the tropical storm connected during this difficult time. So if you have power, you don't have to worry about losing your connectivity. They said they are providing unlimited talk, text, and data access to customers in 22 parishes that are in the range of parishes that may be affected by Tropical Storm Barry.
Yeah, and they include some of the parishes that we've been talking about: Plaquemines Parish, Orleans, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. James, St. John, St. Tammany, Livingston, and then Baton Rouge area. So once again, AT&T providing unlimited text, talk, and data access to customers in these 22 parishes. And among those parishes, many of the ones whom we've been monitoring, and the parish leaders giving us updates throughout this lull as we wait for Tropical Storm Barry to make landfall. But we've already seen impacts, and it's affecting a lot of people already.
All right, it's 8 o'clock now, so we hope you all inside watching us. But if you are watching on your mobile device, I mean, you can get all the very latest access, of course, not only on air but online on the WDSU mobile app. We're keeping you abreast of what is going on there. 8 o'clock, we know, a critical time, as this is the time when Mayor Cantrell is certainly asking everyone to be inside. We're anticipating conditions to start to ramp up and the effects from Barry to be felt more in this area.
Yeah, all floodgates are closed according to officials. Jefferson Parish, Orleans, St. Bernard, floodgates surrounding those areas closed right now. We do have mandatory and voluntary evacuations all in effect, and curfews are also in place. So in Jefferson Parish as well, a 10 p.m. curfew was announced an hour ago when city leaders and parish leaders gave that update. They've already gone out to clean about 8,000 catch basins out there in Jefferson Parish too. So before the curfew is in effect in Jefferson Parish, this is probably a good idea. A good time to get out there and bring in all your patio furniture, or even trash bins or trash cans that are loose, anything that's loose hanging outside, because even though it's not going to be a big wind maker, we are feeling impacts of strong gusts and strong winds moving in. The biggest concern, of course, with this storm is going to be the storm surge, the high river levels, and heavy rainfall. That is going to be the big concern for this.
Certainly, and we keep on talking about Jefferson Parish. The major point of concern right now in Jefferson is the Grand Isle area. They've already clearly seen some impacts from this tropical system. Grand Isle out of power for the most part at this hour, and the roadway where Entergy crews would use to repair the power has been covered with water, so that's not an option at this time. So it might be a couple of hours before power is not a couple of hours, a couple of days, pardon me, a couple of days before power is restored in Grand Isle. So we're certainly checking in with all the parishes, keeping everyone abreast of the latest developments. We have checked in St. Bernard Parish with Fletcher Mackle. He was down there as water was starting to come over roadways down there. The floodgate leading to the southern part of St. Bernard is closed as well. So everyone is just pretty much finalizing their preparations and, I hate to use this phrase, hunkering down, getting in place, sheltering in place, better term, sheltering in place, getting ready for Barry.
Well, I know we feel like we say that over and over again, but we can't emphasize enough, as officials cannot reiterate enough, the importance of sheltering in place, and it's all for safety reasons. Hey, and also let's not forget our friends out in Biloxi and Mississippi as well. We just got word about an hour or so ago where Governor Phil Bryant signed a declaration of emergency out there in Mississippi as well. They had a really busy day there too, where the Coast Guard officials have been busy rescuing folks, 5 people off of a vessel about 20 miles close to Gulfport, Mississippi. But the Coast Guard crews also being commissioned out to North Shore, to Covington, to help out with the rescue missions there, and the kind of resources that are available, because thanks to all the emergency declarations that have been declared, the fact that they can have assets and people and personnel spread throughout the area to help out. So the Coast Guard being deployed, National Guardsmen being deployed with high water vehicles, boats and helicopters in place to help out just in case.
And we do know that we are starting to see some power outages already in the St. John or in the Laplace area. About 1,000 folks without power. That's where WDSU's Michael Vincino picks up our team coverage from Laplace. Michael.
And guys, that's right, about 1,000 people here between Laplace and Mons without power. I want to show you guys exactly why. You take a look at that tree right there. That tree snapped and it actually fell on top of the power lines, leading to around 1,000, if not just a little bit more than 1,000 people without power this evening here in Laplace and also in Mons. It's a little stretch of road here these thousands of people are without power now. I want to introduce you guys to Mr. Lawrence here. He was actually, you said you were home. What happened? What did you hear?
Well, I just had Cam home, and we couldn't pass right there for the tree. We had to go around, and when we went around, and next half an hour, we heard some pow, pow. And the pole still was on fire, so they had to come and put it out. You know, so.
Tough situation to be without power tonight?
Yeah, but I trust in God. And without him, we can't do nothing. So I thank God for that, and we're going to be all right. You know, just put our faith in God.
Do you think a situation like this is something to be expected with the storm coming on the way?
Oh, yeah. You know, like I said, you know, we just got to be, you know, just charged up with God on our side, you know, because he knows the situation better than we do. You know, he the only one can turn this around.
What are you expecting with this storm?
Well, you know, I just hope that everybody be safe. You know, and stay off the road as possible. You know, like I say, you know, it's tough, but we got to tough it out. You know, that's all I can say. We can just tough it out.
Around 1,000 people without power now because of that. But you see the tree fell there. It could have fallen into traffic. It's something. So this situation could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse because, like I said, traffic could have been coming, and then it could have been some serious damage. You know, but we thank God that it didn't happen that way. You know, we thank God for that. You know.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Y'all be
You
blessed.
have a good evening. And I want to show you guys again that one more time. That tree right there, you can see it. There's some of the limbs that are on the ground. They were told that was the limbs that were on top. That was on top of the power pole, and you can actually see the power pole. It's kind of covered by the dark tree behind it, but you can see it tilted to the side. We're told that the crews have to come and replace that. So about 1,000 people without power here on this street in Laplace. And also in Monson, you can actually see the power cables that are hanging here, again, waiting for crews to come out here and fix it. And, the Energy website says about just a little bit over 1,000 people without power, and it actually says due to the extensive damage, they're waiting to send more crews out here to fix this issue. But according to Entergy's website, they're expecting this power will be back by 9 o'clock tonight. So we're going to try and stay here and get some more details, guys. But for now, I'm going to toss it back to you guys in the studio.
power is so important. Michael, thank you so much.
Seemed like the wind was picking up out there. Just for the latest on Barry and the forecast track, meteorologist Daniel Graves in the Weather Center with the latest. Daniel.
Yeah, we're starting to see more rain bands moving in. So as we head through the next several hours into the overnight hours and into Saturday, we are going to see more of these rain bands moving in, the winds picking up, and the water getting pushed over land. So I just want to give you an update of what's happening right now across southeast Louisiana and coastal Mississippi. And you can see some of those heavier rain bands down toward the coast starting to push in into parts of Lafourche and Terrebonne parishes. You can see over toward Houma. It's kind of yellowish color. That's the heavier rain that's pushing through. Some gusty winds with that. You can see that rain extending down toward the coast just near the Galliano area, and some heavier rain south of Jean Lafitte. Here in the New Orleans metro area, not too much rainfall. Some light shower activity from Metairie to Kenner over toward Luling, traveling on 310. Up toward the North Shore in coastal Mississippi, you can see a little bit of heavier rain west of Biloxi and west of the Gulfport area. Picayune had a few scattered showers earlier. But right now, some quiet conditions across much of the North Shore. Again, we've seen some higher wind gusts just toward the southwest of Grand Isle, 58 miles per hour. Further offshore, a 90 mile per hour wind gust. So right now, we're seeing sustained winds on the South Shore, 20 to 25 miles per hour across many locations. A little lighter for you on the North Shore over toward coastal Mississippi, and some wind gusts at least up to 30 miles per hour from Boothville up to 38, 39 from Houma to Galliano, and that could be associated with some of that heavier rain that is moving through. Now, our maximum wind gusts we've seen today, we've already gotten up to 48 miles per hour over toward Houma, 45 for you in Boothville, and even 41 miles per hour in Gulfport. As far as rainfall totals are concerned, we're up to a half of an inch in Galliano, a little over that in the Slidell area. But unfortunately, these numbers are only going to climb from here. The latest advisory from Tropical Storm Barry, again, 65 mile per hour winds, and it's still moving very slow. West-northwest at 4 miles per hour. So with this slow movement, there's going to be a lot of rainfall potential as we go over the next 24 to 48 hours. And again, eyeing a landfall sometime in the early morning, around 5 to 7 a.m. it looks like, as we go toward probably the western parts of Terrebonne Parish, but continuing to make that way off toward the north. But it's still going to bring a lot of moisture with it over the next several days. Back to you.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much for that. Right now, we have on the set in the studio with us Jim Donnellan, Insurance Commissioner. Thank you so much for joining us today on a busy stretch of a busy day.
Indeed, it's been a busy couple of days already, and we have a couple more to go, obviously. I was actually up in central Louisiana when the storm began its approach out of the north, if you believe it. In my time, that's the first hurricane to approach us from the north rather than from the Gulf. But as it did and became the obvious threat that it is, and the governor closed all state offices, we kicked into our emergency mode, and we had volunteers manning the phones in our department all day today. And from what all the predictions are, soon we'll start to see the winds picking up, the rains falling, and the damage following.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned in one of the press conferences earlier that for this particular storm, it's a little too late to get insurance because it takes 30 days to take effect. What is your advice for people who really may not have insurance at this point, because they were in an ex-flood zone, let's say, and so they didn't really bother to get insurance?
Correct.
What's your advice for them now?
Well, they need to protect their property. Sandbags are an obvious choice for that protection as best as it can be. Provide trim trees. Vulnerable parts of their property should be tightened up and nailed down to prevent any damage to their building. And then start looking for the flood coverage and the homeowners coverage or renters coverage that they may need for the next one. Because we're really just starting this hurricane season. This is only the second month of a 6-month season. And the peak doesn't even start to grow until mid-August and stays on an upward track until the end of September. That's the peak of the season. There is a 30-day wait period before flood insurance covers you even after you've paid your first premium. Homeowners, generally those companies stop writing when a hurricane or a storm enters the Gulf and resume writing when it goes ashore and starts to dissipate. So right now this one is entering the Gulf, though from the north, and will make landfall tonight presumably and then dissipate, and the companies will start writing again. So yes, that's one thing that everyone in Louisiana should do, primarily access the National Flood Insurance Program. It's actually a FEMA program benefiting Louisiana property owners more than any other state in America, and the best buy, I call it, for property owners anywhere in our state. Unfortunately, statewide, only a quarter of the residences are insured for flood, and it's significantly subsidized still by the federal government. So if you're in a low-risk area, it's very inexpensive. And if you're in a higher risk area, though it's more expensive, it's not what it would actuarially cost if the government wasn't participating as a subsidy for property owners with that high risk.
If Barry does reach hurricane strength, does that change anything in terms of insurance, or if it makes landfall as a hurricane as opposed to this tropical system right now?
Absolutely. Almost all homeowners' policies now come with either a hurricane or a named storm or maybe a wind and hail deductible. They vary company to company. But yes, if it becomes a hurricane, then that named storm or hurricane deductible kicks in. And that's typically 2 to 3%, in some cases as high as 5%, not of your damage, but of your insured value. So that if you have a 2% named storm deductible on a $150,000 insured home, that's a $3,000 deductible out of pocket if a tree falls on your property before your coverage kicks in. And let me make this point. For those who do have insurance in place already, flood or homeowners, if you're damaged by flood and you have flood coverage, or a falling limb and you have homeowners coverage, get in touch with your agent or your company as soon as possible. Because the sooner that you get into the claims line to get a claims adjuster out, the sooner you'll get that process done, and you can hire a local, reputable, known, Better Business Bureau certified contractor. So many thousands of people in the aftermath of catastrophic events, widespread events like this, are victims a second time of those storm chasers that follow events like this, and know that people get a big check. They want to put their house back together quickly. They go in there and snooker them into giving them that check and hit the road. It's really a widespread problem all across America in the aftermath of events like this.
I want to switch gears for a second and just talk about car insurance. You know,
Sure.
We saw a flood event here on Wednesday. Two questions for you. I know a lot of cars were flooded out, and so how would you characterize the claims that have come in since Wednesday? And then do you ever see people try and take advantage of a flood event, like try and get out of a car note, I'm going to leave my car there and just let it, what would you say to those issues?
Well, first off, know that 45% of our insured vehicles are only insured for minimum limits, and another 10 to 15% are uninsured altogether. The bulk of the cars that have comprehensive coverage to cover for a flood loss are those that have a loan on them, and the lender required that comprehensive coverage that includes flood coverage. I think it's very rare that people purposefully let their car flood out. Typically, there's a gap. In fact, there's an option to buy something called gap insurance for the gap between what your insurance will pay and what it's going to cost to get a similar car to replace the one you've lost. So I think that's a rather rare event. But in 2016, Baton Rouge and Lafayette had huge flooding event in those two metropolitan areas. 60,000 insured vehicles were flooded. Insured vehicles were flooded at a cost to private insurers of $700 million. Wow. Before Katrina, our record all-time insured loss event was a hailstorm that came through New Orleans and cost insurers $500 million. This was much bigger in just flooded insured vehicles than even that hailstorm, and certainly much smaller than Katrina and Rita thereafter.
And go ahead. I was just going to say, certainly all these events affect the rates.
Oh, no doubt. Go ahead. The rates are in large part for auto and for homeowners. Well, not so much. I'll get back to homeowners, but for auto, it's based on prior loss experience. But for homeowners, there's also something called CAT models, which predict future losses caused by events like Barry, catastrophes like that. based on how much the companies got concentrated in a particular area closer to the coast or more vulnerable, et cetera. Yes, our rates are affected by events like the one we're about to experience.
One last quick question
Surely.
before we let you go. If you don't meet the deductible from the first damage in the first event, what happens the second time around?
The second time in the same season,
Yeah.
only one named storm or hurricane deductible. We did that 10 years ago legislatively after seeing Florida had done it a year or two before us, because these named storm or hurricane deductibles became prevalent in all coastal states. And the question became, Rita right after Katrina. What happens if a second one comes before you can even repair for the first one? We had that with Gustav and Isaac in 2008. So we went to the legislature, and they did pass legislation to prevent people from being subjected to two such named storm deductibles or hurricane deductibles in the same season.
All right, Insurance Commissioner Jim Donnelly, thank you so much
Glad
for
to
joining
be
us.
with you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, good information there. Well, let's check in now with reporter Fletcher Mackel. He is in St. Bernard Parish with the latest on what's happening there. Fletcher.
That's right. Good evening, Gina. You know, you asked us how things looked here in St. Bernard Parish. It's a little thin on the street, and we think we know the reason why, because we've come to Brewster's here, which is a popular family restaurant. This is Jess Reeb. This is her place, and it is packed in here right now. Just how has it been tonight with the people kind of coming in and out? It's been pretty busy, I assume.
It's been pretty busy. We've been getting phone calls actually all day, but especially tonight, just asking if we're open, how late we're staying open, and people are placing to-go orders, picking them up, coming in and eating. They still want their burgers, I guess.
and you said that you were actually going to shut down early, but you may not because so many people are calling and ordering it.
Exactly. We were thinking, you know, if the rain started early or anything like that, we didn't want to put our employees in danger, but it's clear outside and we still have a lot of customers coming in.
Now, let me say this. 2 years ago, we were here at Brewster's, and this was the only place on Judge Perez that did not maybe follow the rules and close down. Other places were asked to close down. They did, and you all were packed. Were you always going to stay open here?
Yeah, we pretty much say we're going to stay open. The employees still want to work. The customers still want to eat, and everything outside's safe so far. So no reason for us to close yet.
All right. That's Jess with Brewster's here in St. Bernard Parish. We're going to continue to kind of survey the area here, see if people are on the streets. There's a lot of people here in her restaurant right now, and we'll have more live reports through the evening. Back to you.
All right, Fletcher Mackel, live in St. Bernard. Thank you so much for that. Right now on the phone, we have with us Major Ernest Hull from the Salvation Army. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
All right, so what are you, we talked to Unity Outreach earlier today. There's a lot of homeless people, and they were working to make sure that they are safe inside shelters, and your shelter was one of the shelters that was mentioned. Are you accommodating homeless folks today, and how many?
We are. We generally, current population in our shelter, even before the event, was 84 singles and 6 families. Right now, I have a total of 115 people in the shelter, and we have room for additional folks as needed. There's a patrol that goes around to actually bring folks in out of the street, those who are willing to come. Unfortunately, not everyone's willing to come in, but we're open through the storm to make sure people are safe and they're fed and kept out of the elements.
We know that you run a shelter on a regular basis, but how does it work when you are preparing for a storm or mobilizing to make sure that you have what you need, resources available for whoever comes to the Salvation Army shelter? What type of preps did you have to do this week?
Well, certainly Wednesday was a pretty good shock to all of us with the flooding that we had, even around our building. But we're always prepared. We're always in disaster mode. Salvation Army usually can mobilize fairly quickly. We keep food stocks on hand. Of course, since I have a shelter, I've always got food to cook here. We went out and purchased some extra items to ensure that we're ready to meet any emergent needs that come up even following the storm.
You said you are accommodating around 115 people during this storm event. What is your normal accommodation? I just wanted something to kind of compare it to see how many people you were helping out this time around.
Right. When we actually have 30 of our residents who chose to actually evacuate with family members. So they've got, I think some of those are families actually. Their apartments are reserved for them until they come back. But normally we have a total of 271 beds available in our shelter.
So, Major Hull, I love Salvation Army personally. I used to be on the board in Green Bay, Wisconsin years ago. Love what you do for the community. I know that you provide other resources and counseling and help and job search opportunities, training and so forth. Tell me, like during an event like this, you have an opportunity now to reach out to more people, not just help the 30 or so dozens of people whom you normally help, but now there's a greater number of homeless folks you can reach out to. Does this provide actually a good opportunity to help them get back on their feet and not only provide them a safe place to sleep inside from the storm, but really help them, with job training, computer skills, and other opportunities?
Absolutely. Just getting them into our doors helps them to understand what resources are available through the Salvation Army. Some folks, think of us, and they remember that little red bell at Christmas time, and they know we're doing something good, but they don't realize the kind of help we actually have available for the community. So getting them in our door, we can start helping them onto a path to success, and that's our ultimate goal, is to help these folks who are homeless realize, there are things that we can do to help them to make them successful parts of our community again.
Okay. So for this particular storm, do you anticipate more folks coming in? Do you have volunteers out there trying to help more people out on the streets? What's the plan here?
We actually, the police department does a homeless sweep, and so does Unity and Catholic Charities and some other agencies. They literally go to the encampments currently and encourage folks to come in. They're pointing them to all the shelters that are open, us, Ossinan Inn, the Mission and such, and they're pulling the folks in on our behalf. We do have, in the wintertime, we do what's called the cold patrol to try to keep people out of the cold, but we're leaving it to the police and the others to actually help get residents in for something like this. I do anticipate we'll have some more folks even tonight, and then tomorrow as this really ramps up, we'll probably see an influx even in the morning.
Major Ernest Hull from the Salvation Army, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the work you're doing for our community. All right, thank you so much.
In studio right now, we have City Council President Helena Moreno. Thank you for your time. It's interesting. I know you've gone through this on one side, on this side, and now you are on the other side in conversation with you are city leaders in conversation with all the officials. Walk us through what the conversation has been like over the last couple of days to keep people safe.
Sure. Well, over the last couple of days, obviously, we've been watching the storm and talking to, of course, the national weather experts as well, and they have been in-house with us, letting us know what to